companies that decide, and it's companies that electricians trust and the installers trust, these very big brands, and they think, oh, well, they say this, so that must be right.
Yeah.
They trust the marketing, they trust what they say, and I think from the installer's point of view, they don't question it because it's this big brand. Police the industry, unfortunately, if a company decides
So
to
who
go,
does?
Nobody.
And that's the truth, isn't it?
That is the truth.
When it comes down to it, it isn't policed.
As a company, you can say whatever you want to say.
And the amount of frustration around bodies like NAPIT, NIC, Select, ECA is growing. So what is the main risk, in your opinion, of running an SPD, a Type 2 SPD, in a domestic board without an MCB? Episode 23. And this one is going to be an absolute eye-opening one. I think, Kirsty, I want to thank you again for being so brave to come on and share this openly and honestly from an expert's perspective, as well as lifting the iron curtain at what happens, how JPEL is structured, and the politics behind the iron curtain that most of us never get to see. So guys, this one is an incredible episode. It's going to hit hard. Please feel free to leave your feedback in the comments. And while you're there, I'll just ask one small favor. Please subscribe and like the video if you're watching on YouTube. Please follow us on Spotify if you're listening or watching there, or on Apple Podcasts if you're listening there. And guys, without further ado, I just want to say a huge thank you to Chauvin Arnoux for sponsoring not only this episode, but the entire season. And let's get into it. Okay. Right, guys, and welcome back to the Talk Up podcast. I'm really excited today because I get to be joined by a fellow circuit protection nerd in Kirsty, and she won't mind me saying that because we've already admitted we are self-proclaimed circuit protection nerds. Travelled all the way down from Manchester on the hottest day in July, is what it feels like, in here anyway. And we are going to talk everything from JPEL, we're going to talk regs, we're going to talk circuit protection, surge protection, we're going to talk a couple of controversial videos I put out, we're going to talk Kirsty's journey, which is actually more important than anything, and anything else we can think of at the time. And that's the plan anyway.
That's the plan. We'll see what happens.
100% get detoured, but you know, we've got to cut it short of 4 hours at least. But no, all jokes aside, guys, if you love circuit protection, if you really enjoy the industry as far as regulations and want to know what happens behind the scenes, I think this is going to be an interesting show for you. So Kirsty, thank you very much for coming down.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't you introduce the world to Kirsty and let's start with the way you work. Let's start with the company Surge Protection Devices and what you guys do there.
So I'm the Technical Director at Surge Protection Devices Limited. We're the UK's leading specialist in the field of lightning and surge. I know for most people, surge protection's become a new thing because of the 18th edition. We're actually 20 years old next year.
Wow.
So we're not a brand new company that appeared just because of the wiring regs.
So you started it when you were like 14, is that what you're saying?
That's obviously much younger than I thought. So that's what we do. We're specialists in lightning and surge protection, which means I sit very niche most of the time in the industry.
So why surge protection for you? How did that happen?
It actually happened because I met my now other half while I was at university.
Oh, okay.
And I sort of went along to events, and Elexes was where I started out, handing out bags, just helping out on the trade stand. And being a nerd, I wanted to know everything about everything. I wanted to know how it all worked, why it worked, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I love the intricacies behind it.
See, that's funny you should say that, because most people fall into our industry, no matter where you fit into the electrical industry, whether you in fact, electricians are probably the only ones in the industry that genuinely decided to become electricians, right? That's a choice, because obviously you go through your apprenticeship, your AM2, etc. You ask anyone who's worked in wholesaling, they never dreamt of selling sockets or cable, ever once. Like, I'm sure young Kirsty wasn't lying awake at night going, hey, one day I'm going to be the technical director of a surge company. It's lightning stuff, and so it sounds really cool. So the fact that it seems to happen that way, like the industry attracts someone for whatever reason it is. Sometimes it's you actually need a job, sometimes it's a person, sometimes a combination of the two, and then it just grips some people. Like it did me. But then certain parts of the industry bore the shit out of me. I'll be honest. Like cable, like Doncaster, he made, when Aaron come on, he made cable seem interesting, which is the most challenging thing in the world, in my opinion. But like you, his passion for it
he reckons he can smell the different types of cable.
Wow.
Yeah. I cannot smell the different types of RCBO. I don't know about you.
No, definitely not. No.
But if he reckons he can walk through the factory and know what they're making based on the smell, which I think is insane.
I think I just love the electrical industry. For me, absolutely captured my imagination and my brain because it's constantly evolving. There's always something
there's
new.
Always change. Yeah.
And I think there's so many different parts of it. You can get lost down rabbit holes, and even circuit protection. If you just take circuit protection, how many different things you can go into in it? And I think for nerds like us, having something like that you can really get into it's been fantastic.
So you've been at Surge Protection for 11 years, officially, not unofficially, sorry. Before, not including the bag handing around at the
not including that, no.
But, so you were doing the Elex shows, 12, 13 years ago?
Yeah.
Have they changed much?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So when I first started, I don't know if you remember, you used to have your girls walking around in your very little amounts of clothing.
Yeah, all your dolly birds on the stands.
Dolly birds, going back to the dolly birds days. That was where it was when I first started. Hated it. Being a woman that wanted to be something, I've got nothing against girls that want to be the dolly birds, but I think in an industry that's constantly evolving in the way the world's moved, it wasn't the image that I wanted to see represented as women in the electrical industry. And thankfully, that has changed a lot over the last sort of 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing women in all aspects of the industry now, not just from the trades, but in the office, and even down to, I'm not going to name the particular national, but all of a sudden I'm seeing a lot more of this particular national of employing women as branch managers. Yeah. Never saw that before.
No. You'd see women in accounts, and that was it.
100%.
Yeah.
I was about to say, or marketing.
Yes.
That was literally it, yeah. So, no, that's definitely changed. You've seen a lot more reps out there and some women doing some fantastic things in the industry, yourself included.
I remember doing my first time I ever spoke at a seminar. I spoke on a panel with Nappet.
Yeah. How intimidating was that?
I was absolutely terrified until I opened my mouth, and then I was fine because I'm always as surprised as everybody else as what comes out. Today's going to be interesting. I was fine once I started to speak. And I remember coming off that panel, and that must have been, we're only talking maybe 2018, something like that.
Quite recently.
Quite recently. And I had women come from different trade stands just to say how fantastic it was to see a woman up on a panel because they'd never seen it before. And they were other brands, it's bigger brands, much bigger brands than we are. And it was really nice to see that.
Yeah, no, so there you go. So you join a company officially 11 years ago with zero experience. Mm-hmm. Not to throw your CV up there, but in those 11 years, you've obviously, again, you've done seminars, you've run CPD, you've become a technical, then industry's considered technical expert in surge protection, to the point where you're now a part of JPEL, which means we're going to talk about JPEL as well, about the influence and support that they give the regs and everything else. Well, there you go. The reason we spoke is because one nerd to another, I had questions about surge. I thought, I know who to speak to. And call yourself. So that's what you've managed to create for yourself in what is actually quite a short space of time.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't want to say because I've got boobs.
Okay.
No, I think.
To be fair, there's a lot of blokes in this industry got some boobs.
They have. No, but I definitely don't think it's gone against me. In some ways, it has. I always think. I remember when I first started in the industry, somebody saying to me, a woman will always have an easier job getting in the door, but once you're in the door, you've got to prove yourself a lot more.
Fair.
And I've definitely found that you can get appointments a lot quicker, you can do that type of thing as a woman. But I think because I'm in a very niche industry.
You're in a very niche part of a niche industry as well.
Yeah, that's it. And I think because I'm a woman, I'm very different. So I got invited to talk on panels and things like that because I provide something different to what a lot of other people do. And people remembered me. Yeah. Because I'm different, and because I'm not afraid to say, oh, actually, that's not a surge issue, that's this issue. And I'll go down another rabbit hole with you and try and figure out what it is. I'm approachable. And I think sometimes, especially in the technical side of our industry, you end up with people that are know-it-alls and will start...
You see me biting my lip already. Like
yeah, you get the...
Arrogance.
And very much the old white man image.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fit that. So I think people relate to me a lot easier. So I think I've probably gained a bit of notoriety for that reason, I think especially.
I think, again, amongst other brands, see our industry is awesome, right? And it's really layered. So you speak to a lot of electricians and they don't know anyone who works for this particular company, but they'll know this company. Then you speak to wholesalers who don't know anyone who works for this particular company, but then we all seem to know each other, like for various reasons, mostly because it's talking competition or whatever it might be, or that rep, or this goes from here to there and blah, 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 blah. But the politics, and this is the bit the electrician, I don't think, don't get me wrong, there's politics at the electrical level or the installation level, but our level is absolutely nuts.
It is.
It's almost like, and I'm going to stop short of saying it can be a bit like a cartel at times, but I'm only stopping an inch short of that.
Old boys club.
Massively.
Yeah.
And like, obviously we've been on our own journey of kicking some doors down. And this is where I give credit, and I'm going to say this on camera, right? I give credit to brands like Fusebox. Not on anything in particular, apart from the fact the way they crack the market through the contractor drive, right?
Yeah, they disrupted the industry.
100% they did. And they did it leveraging online wholesalers, which also hadn't been done properly before. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole as much as everything in my body wants me to do that, right? But what they showed people was, do you know what? If you just take time to look at a brand that you haven't used before, chances are you might like it more. And there might be things about it that are better than the brands that you think are the be-all and end-all.
Yeah.
And in my humble opinion, and you're in a better position to say this than I am, because, again, I compete with them differently than you do, because, again, you are so specialist. I honestly think the reaction to that has been political. Like, we can't beat them here, so we'll choke them here.
Yeah.
And that's true in every industry, by the way. That's not just ours. I just think it's the first time I've really seen it. I mean, obviously, I'm on the coal face of it as well. I go head-to-head with these particular brands day in, day out. Mm-hmm. And some of the way and we're going to talk about this as well, about how they use marketing and propaganda as, quote-unquote, the right way to do something, or regulations, or what particular type of RCD should fit on a heat pump this week, or now bi-directional RCBOs is the only way to go on every single install, or the fact that you can't use a third-party SPD, for example, and someone's consuming it. It was all driven by an agenda that fits a commercial purpose rather than benefits the installer and the homeowner.
Yeah, quite a lot, unfortunately, especially right now in our industry, I feel like, because, yeah, it's political. It's companies that decide, and it's companies that electricians trust and the installers trust, these very big brands, mm-hmm. and they think, oh, well, they say this, so that must be right.
Yeah.
They trust the marketing, they trust what they say, and I think from the installer's point of view, they don't question it because it's this big brand.
But it's not just the installer.
No, it's not. It's the industry doesn't
The industry doesn't
question
it, and industry bodies don't question it.
Or they do question it, and then they're influenced to not question it anymore.
So, as you can tell by this really awkward smile that we both have on our face, right, we have had a very long conversation before this podcast, right? And we did say that we would try and be as open as possible without causing ourselves a lot of shit.
Yeah.
However, I know as soon as one of us goes first, the other one's going to hammer it in. So what I think we should try and do is stay away from names.
Yes.
And let people come to their own conclusions about what we know. Because you and I could pull the onion back on the industry and probably face a lawsuit. But,
yeah, let's try not to get involved today.
That's it. But it's. I think it's important for people to understand that, like, there's, as an installer, from my perspective, and obviously I caught a lot of heat off the back of that SPD video I did.
You did, yeah.
I did. All right, thank you for helping me with that, by the way. But I caught a lot of shit off the back of that because I went down the road of best practice based on everything I understood, the research I did, to the point where I remember looking at the research, speaking to a lot of people, thinking this can't be right. To which I called you. Like, if I and I said to everyone listening and watching, right, I called Kirsty and I said, look, cards on the table, this is who I am, this is where I'm calling from, and this is why I'm calling, right? I don't think this makes sense. I don't think this is safe. I definitely don't think this is best practice, and I think BS 7671 supports that. What do you think? And your answer was?
I completely agree.
Right. So I put it out into the world. I thought, that's what I need to know. I've just spoken to an expert about it. Like, boom. I did screw up the video. I do apologise. I did misquote certain reg numbers, but the content was right, and I've since put it in the comments, blah, blah, blah. And there will be an episode, a version 2 of that video. I just had to wait for my beard to grow back, which is a whole different story. I shaved my face for the first time in 10 years, didn't like it, had to grow it back.
No. I couldn't imagine you.
No, neither could anyone. I didn't leave the office. I went home into the office and didn't see no one, right? But, yeah, and that's why there's been no videos in like a month. But, no, so I put that video out because it's best practice. I've been hitting the nuts before with that on the IP65 consumer unit saga. And we have never at Navitas done an IP65 consumer unit because of those reasons, which again, we don't have to go into. But that surge protection video was evidence enough to me that bullshit baffles brains.
Yep.
And how do you deal with that at JPEL's level?
So JPEL itself is very difficult to deal with things like that because what we're there to do essentially is look at international and European standards. Essentially what we do is take all the standards from around the world, look at them.
Wiring regulations or manufacturing standards? Because they are, again, guys, right, okay.
Both. So
that's a lot of standards.
Realistically, what we're looking at is mostly is wiring regs because that's what we're trying to implement. But we do have to go into quite a lot of product standards to make sure everything aligns. So we're there basically looking at all these different standards and then applying it to UK installations and making it sure it fits.
Right,
and then applying our specialist UK regulations to it and how we view electrical installations in the UK.
So why is that so complex then? Because surely, again, just trying to put a layman's term on it a little bit, especially for some of the audience, is that if you look at a European standard, for example, regulation, it's all 230 volt, same as ours.
Yeah.
The only real differences are, in my understanding of, we use ring circuits rather than radials as a standard, which I still don't understand why. What I do is, we've been doing it since the war. And
we don't like change.
We really don't like change, no. And the other main one is obviously 13 amp 3-pin plug over a 2-pin, for example. So are there many differences from a European standard to a UK standard?
There shouldn't be, but it's very much the same as everybody's been on holiday and you see the wiring and you think...
No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. You're careful with that plug. You don't let your kids plug things in.
No.
They're supposed to be very similar.
Have you ever been to Malta?
I have.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
How people don't die from turning the lights on.
Yeah, no. So, yeah, even though they can look quite similar, we have to do things in a slightly different way. So we take all these standards, put them together. So what we're doing is constantly reviewing these new standards, getting ready for the next amendments. But that takes time. So when this stuff appears in the industry, the marketing fluff, as I like to terminology of it, JPEL can't do anything about that. And the reason is we can't move fast enough.
Right. That's an interesting
everything
take.
for us is standards driven. So although we can say, and we're not there to police the industry, unfortunately, if a company decides to go...
So who does?
Nobody.
And that's the truth, isn't it?
That is the truth.
When it comes down to it, it isn't policed.
As a company, you can say whatever you want to say, however you want to say it. Nobody can say anything about, nobody within the electrical industry will say anything about it. Now, companies like mine and yours, where we're small, medium-sized companies, you've always got the big boys that will try and say things. The larger companies can say whatever they want because who's going to tell them off?
Fact.
Apart from companies like me and you, and then we get in trouble for it.
Yeah. Well, that's it then, and they try and crush you.
They do, which happens periodically, and then I'm getting quite good at shouting back.
But this is why I really respect what you've done, right? Because to position yourself at JPEL the way you have gives you a voice alongside those big names. Yeah,
and sometimes that's the only thing that keeps me in the room. I get extremely frustrated.
You're going to have to expand on that. That's awesome.
So sometimes, so when I walk into a meeting at JPEL, we do most of them on Teams now, so I don't physically walk into them. But when we were doing them online, face-to-face rather than online, I'd walk in. It's a group of maybe 20 to 30 gentlemen of a certain age.
50 plus.
Mostly. And, you have some voices in the room that you don't always feel are acting in the best interests.
Of the industry or themselves?
the industry. They're acting in the best interest of themselves, unfortunately, or are acting in the interests of who they're representing.
The commercial interests.
Yeah. So how JPEL works is you have people from different bodies sit on it. So you have people like me that are independent experts. So I don't sit on JPEL as Kirsty from Surge Protection Devices. I sit on JPEL as Kirsty, the surge protection expert.
So that's how it's done, is it? So you're nominated as a specific sort of industry area expert rather than...
Some of them.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like that, but then you might have, there's other people on it that might, like NAPIT will have a representative, and they represent their members.
Okay.
You have somebody from the ECA, they represent their members. You have, again, NIC. You have the health and safety people. You have... sometimes you'll have specialist people on there. So JPEL D, which is what I sit on, which is the Weird and Wonderful. We have like medical location experts and people like that.
Okay.
But then you'll also have your BEMA and your, people.
Stop smoking when you say that.
We have people, larger corporations like that. But what you'll quite often find is somebody might be on there from one organisation, but they've got links to several others that are sitting around the table.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate on that one?
Yeah, so you might have somebody on there that is an expert in the field of circuit protection, but then they might have somebody else on that board that is a BEMA representative that person is then a member of that society, so they link together. It's like the ECA and the NIC are ultimately owned by the same person, so when they're sitting on there...
Is that true?
Yeah. They're all owned... Search
I didn't know that.
NIC, ECA, it's all comes under the same umbrella.
Because there's a lot of, I mean, again, don't have to get into this because we're not electricians. I don't feel like we can speak on it too tough. But obviously, I'm a member of the ESK. I've got, I spend most of my life speaking to electricians. Jay speaks to wholesalers. I speak to electricians. It's quite a nice little cut in between. And the amount of frustration around bodies like NAPIT, NIC, Select, ECA is growing. Is growing, and I think there's an inconsistency as well. I mean, Jamie Blayton, to be fair, Jamie, I love you to death, but you could pick a fight in an empty room. The thing is with Jamie, he knows so much about so much. It's just the way he delivers it is great. I mean, I watched all his shorts last night, unbelievably entertaining and factually correct. But if he just went to war in a more constructive way, he would get a lot of things changed, I personally believe. But the guy swears far too much. But
most honest people do.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, again, before we turned the cameras on, we were swearing blindly.
We were terrible. Yeah.
But he pointed out the NIC coded a particular installation at C3, whereas NAPA came out and called it a C2 instantly, right? And then there was all sorts of stuff about, well, NIC, Octopus Energy are NIC registered and da-da-da-da-da, and it all comes back down to money. And these companies are companies and they are not charities, even if they are or may be allegedly registered as one. So a lot of decisions in our industry, and again, like I said, I've been caught on the coalface of it, trying to be principled and do things the right way. You get caught in between doing things the right way and costing yourselves sometimes millions of pounds.
Yep. And the big corporations don't make the same decisions as we do.
And they don't make them for the same reasons. But then our decisions are, and again, I'll be completely honest, we were talking about it earlier, that the absolute farce of an SPD not having its own MCB on it.
Yep.
Which I still think, and we'll delve into that into a little bit, but we are now under pressure from customers, my shareholders, wholesalers and electricians for that extra spare way to change the cartridge our SPD sits in so it can fit on a buzz bar and introduce that little solder point as an integral bit of protection, which again, horseshit. And we can dig into exactly why, but we will probably end up launching one, is the truth, which breaks my soul in half. But
it's a commercial decision.
But it's a commercial decision because I've got wages to pay, right? I've got rent to pay, and I've got other people to think about. And the market, based on the information available to it, is almost demanding it. Is there any conversation at JPEL or the IET about that sort of stuff?
There's conversations that are happening all the time. as I said, the issue is that neither of those organisations, the IET or JPEL, police the electrical industry.
Yeah.
Like we were just saying with NIC, NAPIT.
Well, I suppose, isn't that what they're supposed to do, though?
They don't.
Because they have their assessors, the guys are going out once a year getting checked, yada, yada, yada. They have their practices that they're supposed to upkeep.
Yeah, but it's like you just said with coding. You mentioned coding then. Coding is subjective because it comes down to the assessment of the individual assessor when they're on site at that time.
Yeah.
It's subjective.
Yeah.
So you can
so is
say-
the whole of BS 7671.
It is. It's a massive, big grey area, apart from in very specific points. And unfortunately, they're the specific points right now that we don't seem to be abiding to, which is an interesting conversation. But there's nobody there to police it. So if commercial decisions are being made, it's a very difficult time, especially for the smaller businesses in the industry, because quite a lot of commercial decisions are made by large companies, which if you don't then follow them, it is going to cost you money. But from people like me and you that want to do things technically correct in the way things should be done, it does create this massive conflict. Now, I'm in a very different position to you, is because I'm a specialist in a niche field. What we do is surge protection devices. So people can argue with me all day long about surge protection. And that's my job to do that. Realistically, your job is to manufacture your boards and sell your boards. So if your customer is driving what you need to do, that's a very different decision for you to make than what I need to make.
Yeah, they only ask me a technical question when they're looking at something they've not seen before.
Yeah.
Whereas most of the installations they use our products on, they've seen 1,000 times before.
That's
if it's
it.
a board change, an RCBO change, something's tripped out, whatever it is. It's only, and again, with the drive to solar and PV and EV, there's been changes, again, in regulation, but also in products that they now have to use that they're unsure about. That's when I get a technical phone call.
Yeah.
I'm quite lucky because we individually test stuff. Our stuff doesn't go wrong, so I don't get those phone calls.
Yeah, that's nice.
But it's a nice feeling, yeah. But there'll be a technical, whether it be RCD selection or whatever it might be. Yeah. Or I want to wire this off of this, and 9 times out of 10 is please don't do that.
Please don't do it. Yeah. I have quite a lot of them phone calls.
Just don't do that. But that's the level I get, and again, I would say it's inconsistently consistent. Like, that's the type of question I get consistently, but I get those questions inconsistently. Yeah. I suppose in your field, because it's so specialist, you get a multitude of questions all the time.
I can have anything from, I've got this problem, I don't really know if it's a surge issue, but can I talk to you about it? And we have to try and work through it, to how does an SPD work, to, okay, I've got this installation, how do I protect it? Oh, I've got this fault, how do I stop that from happening again? Through to complex questions about large installations, things like working on MOD sites and things, explosive areas. Then I might have a question about BS 7671. Oh, and then somebody wants to talk to me about solar PV, and they're asking me about how to wire their strings. I'm expected to know a lot about a lot as somebody who's a specialist in surge protection, because it sits, although it's a niche product, it ends up branching into so many different areas.
Do you think because you only do surge protection, it's allowed you to grow as quickly as you have with your technical ability, because you can hyper-focus on a specific field?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely helped. I think being autistic has definitely helped.
Well, I found out recently, definitely got ADHD, and it explains a lot. And the funny thing is when I found out, I asked 2 or 3 people, and they looked at me like I was stupid, like, you just figured that one out, like, we all knew. I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. But you could have told me.
Yeah, that's it. It makes things make sense. I wasn't diagnosed again until a couple of years back, so it made everything else make a little bit more sense.
Yeah, and how you just you understand yourself better, which then you can use it as a bit of a superpower.
That's it. And I genuinely do think it's a superpower for me. I really can hyper-focus on things. I've also got an extremely good memory. I had an argument with somebody a couple of weeks ago because they told me I wasn't smart, I just had a good memory. And I was like, that's absolutely fine, because I wouldn't consider myself smart. But I think every smart person in the history has always had a really good memory. So.
I think that the two definitely correlate. Yeah. Because you can be as smart as you like if you don't remember it.
That's it. I've got an ability to read a document and probably be able to reference that document back to you 100 times over in different places. Which helps.
See, that's why I say I always struggled reading.
Really?
I was the complete opposite. Yeah, I struggle with it. I'm dyslexic as well, which doesn't help. But for me, if I visually see something or do something, the way I understand things, and I will keep going and going and going, and that's how I've always done it. Which is why I was able to develop the product the way I was, because I just kept making it, and then, like, even I look at my board now and there's about 50 things I want to change on it.
Yeah.
But you can't do it all at once, apparently.
No, you can't.
But do you know what I mean? And it is different for different people. And I think that's where we're going right back to the beginning, where our industry is awesome, is because it can cater for so many different types of people.
Yeah, I've been able to essentially, because I started at Surge and it was a lot smaller than it is now, I've been able to create the role in Surge. I mean, realistically, I started as a salesperson. That was what I was hired to do.
Somewhat, in small companies, everyone's a salesperson.
Everyone's a salesperson.
In fact, I had a quote from you from some Surge yesterday.
You did, technically. I'm a salesperson now. Helen says I'm a secret salesperson now.
There you go.
But yeah, I started as a salesperson. We very quickly figured out sales was not my thing. I'm very good at talking through a problem and fixing it and being able to tell you which regulation that should work to and how a product should work. I cannot sell something to you if I don't think it's the right thing for your installation.
And the hilarious thing is, it's taken us 11 years to figure that out here, which is why me and Jay have swapped roles.
Really?
Yeah, because I was always customer facing and I would get so frustrated with it. And again, a lot of our customers who've known me a long time and thankfully, supported me a long time, they will say, I'm a bit Marmite, because some people really buy into that and love that, and then other people just don't. And like I said, Jay's 100% better suited.
More sales focused.
Yeah, but he's more people focused. I'm more results focused, I think, is probably a better way of putting it. When in that environment. Here, like we were talking about earlier, like when you're working with people and you're building, like I'm definitely more people focused, and he's probably more results focused. So we're yin and yang. So it works quite well. Which just sounds like you've got at your place.
Yeah,
as well.
me and Helen do that. Helen's very business focused. She deals with the sales team, the business side of things. I'm very technical, and so I get involved with that type of stuff. So generally, I will deal with any technical queries that come in. So if it's a contractor that calls up or a consultant or a designer, they'll speak to me. If it's a wholesaler, it tends to go through Helen's sales team, that type of thing.
So there you go, guys. If you've got any questions in regards to Surge, BS7671, where your strings go, you can call Kirsty at Surge Protection Devices. So look, I just want to move on slightly because there's a topic that's an interesting one, actually. It keeps coming up. I'm saying I pussyfoot around it a little bit, but the elec shows, our trade shows in our industry, okay, I would say is weaker than other industries.
They are, and they're definitely weakening.
You think they're weakening?
Yes.
Okay.
So, although we see claims of footfalls all the time, don't we? Come from these different. I'm not just talking about
10,000 people came. No,
that's it.
They all do it.
We've done lots of different trade shows.
X amount. The guys from Installer call me 1,000 times whether I'm going to exhibit there.
Yep.
So it's plumbers. No, we've had a lot of electricians register. How many? They give me a number. But again, it's when you do these shows, and you've done lots of them, right, for a long, long time. They say, we've had 6,000 people through the door. Well, I've had 40 conversations.
Yeah.
So, it just doesn't. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense.
No. I don't think it's helping the way the electrical industry is at the moment. A lot of the installers and the electricians, they haven't got time to take off.
I agree with
off
that.
The job to go to walk around a trade fair where they're not gaining anything from it. There might be, you get loads of different people there from all different industries, because they're buying their tools.
Tools, yeah.
You get some really dedicated people that come and they'll listen to when I'm doing the seminars and things like that at ELEC.
That's all the thing that baffled me, right, is the last few shows, we've been right next to the CPD centre, okay, and they're so poorly attended. But I've been to every ELEC show in the past, however many it's been now, whether it's at the previous company or this one, and I cannot tell you who's talking about what when. I don't even know.
It's not well publicised.
But the thing is it's when you do the CEF Live. Have you done CEF Live?
Yeah.
When you do CEF Live, it's like you got someone on a tannoy the entire time. This is happening next. Get to here for that. Da, da, da. There's none of that at ELECs at the minute.
No, that is feedback I've given back to them.
And to be fair to Hamerville, they are always asking for feedback.
They are.
Yeah.
But it is something that also needs to move a little bit with the times, I think. I attend quite a lot of events. I've attended a lot of events over in Ireland as well. They do things in a slightly different way.
They do.
So how they
It's
do
a lot
it
more
is
fun.
they do it. Yeah, it involves a bar.
Yeah, we did Ireland.
So how they tend to do things, for anyone that hasn't done events in Ireland, is they will do the first day. It starts at 5 and work goes till 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So it's the evening. So they come after work. The guys come straight from their shift. They have a beer, they walk around the stands, they talk to you, and then the next day they'll have the daytime.
Yeah.
And I think that works really, really well because it gives people the opportunity.
Captures both, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So James always moans because he's got to take 2 days off, right? Which obviously we pay him for, and that's why we're grateful for our sponsors. But at the same point, he's done trade shows. He's seen them online and this, that, and the other. And what he says is, on the day, the tool deals used to pull them in.
Yeah.
But the tool deals now aren't that much better, if at all, on what's online.
Let's face it, you can get anything on Amazon.
Well, yeah, exactly. Or again, from various wholesale websites or whatever it might be. And then he turns around and he says, like, but after that, it's like, okay, I'll have a mooch around, but I've seen it all. And if I haven't seen it all, I've probably seen it on social media or I've seen it at the wholesalers. Yeah. He said the only time it's kind of good is if you've seen something on socials that you've never physically touched and seen, and you go, oh, okay, cool, and then you might try it. And then again, he turns around and says, but then if my local wholesaler doesn't stock it, I can't buy it anyway, so it's absolutely a moot point, which is why, obviously, we offered ours online. But, which you do as well, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We do sell direct online. You can buy direct through our website. We have historically always had a website because way back before surge protection was a big thing, wholesalers could be a little bit silly with their pricing. So it was, so, as you probably, so what we did was sort of put it online to sort of stop wholesalers being very silly with their pricing. Yeah. So it's just, we've just continued that. That's
it, honestly, God, it's exactly why we did it. People, and we get wholesalers moan at us all the time, like, oh, yeah, you sell online. Do you know, I think it's like 8% of our turnover is direct.
Very similar, it's very low.
It's a joke, and like, we're completely B2B focused, but by us being the ones that offer it online, that is the price. Because I've seen what they've done to other brands. Wholesalers have got the capacity to make no money because they're getting their money up front for the first time ever. And we've had the guys from Alert on, and they talked about this. Alert are a bit different, to be fair. They're quite good with their prices. But, like, they get something for, I don't know, 10 quid, and they'll sell it for £10.50.
Yep.
And then no other wholesaler wants to touch it because they can't make any money. And I said, well, if you can't be trusted with it, I wouldn't let you have it.
Exactly. So it's sort of... Yeah. You have to sort of safeguard yourself as a company.
Of course.
And also, it's frustrating for the installer and the electrician.
When they get to the property and the person goes, well, hang on, I could have seen that online for £5, so why you charge me £10 for it? Yeah, exactly.
So I don't get involved with those games. It's one of the reasons we don't sell to the sheds.
Yeah, I bet.
We don't get involved with it. So, yeah, it's just...
Who is your big... do you sell more through nationals or independents?
Nationals.
Is it?
But we have accounts with lots of independents as well. We've got quite a really good spread, to be quite honest. Yeah, it's... I like working with... I like having that mix, not just doing nationals, having the independents as well.
100%, yeah.
Because there's some people want to work with an independent.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest, we've restructured this place to focus more on independents. Again, politics. There's a lot of, I mean, not to have a dig at national wholesalers. I worked for them for a long time. I loved it. But and again, we work with some national branches now and they're great. But it's not just the politics of locally, then there's regionally, then there's centrally, then there's rebates involved. And then they've got to hit certain targets with certain brands to hit that rebate, which they've already factored in. Then if they give us that business, it's going to take away from that. So it's so layered. And people are like, oh, why can't you get into my local Edmondsons? Because I've got to speak to 50 people first and get them all to agree and then still somehow make money at the end.
That's it.
And that's the challenge.
Independence is a lot simpler.
Yeah.
And from, again, technical, nerdy point of view, you tend to find the staff within an independent will have a lot more knowledge about the electrical industry.
That's why I thought you were going to say you do more with independents. Because the national generally is you go in, most of the guys on the counter know what certain key lines are and they know what part numbers are and they'll service you well on the counter. You ask them a technical question, they haven't a Scooby. But neither does a rep, neither does a branch manager because they're all task driven. That's how a national works. In independent, like us, it's your business, right? You drive it forward. You have to know everything in it. If someone comes and asks you a question, they expect you to know. That's part of being an independent, owner or manager, or for a lot of them anyway.
That's what we have. We have stockists throughout the UK. So whether they're national or independent, if they hold our stock, they have training with us.
Right.
We have to be very careful, especially with the nationals where they have a quick turnover of staff.
Yeah, but that happens a lot.
Making sure that's done regularly. But we upkeep with that to try and make sure.
Do you do that on like Zoom and things like that?
It tends to be now more Teams focused. But if we have the ability, we will go out and see people.
What about with contractors? Do you do something similar with that?
Yeah, so I do quite a lot of... It started during COVID, I used to drive 1,000 miles a week to literally up and down the country seeing everybody. And then I realised, well, we all enjoyed the first couple of weeks of COVID, didn't we? Let's face it.
I was still at work.
Well, I worked all the way through, but I was, things were a bit quieter. I wasn't driving as much.
Sun was shining.
Yeah, sun was shining.
No one was on the road.
Tea and biscuits. Yeah. It was lovely. It became a 10 o'clock in the morning thing every day. It was fantastic. After about 3 days, I drove myself crazy. So I set up the SPD training academy, and I started training contractors online.
Guys, Will here from Talk Up. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, this season has been brought to you by Chauvin Arnoux. And if you're an electrical professional who is looking for solid, reliable test and measurement instruments, then Chauvin Arnoux is definitely worth a look. What some of you might not be aware of is Chauvin Arnoux have actually been around for over 4 decades, bringing this sort of kit to the market and have constantly redeveloped and reinvested into new and innovating solutions. You've probably heard of their power and energy loggers, F-clamps or their flexi clamp. But just in case you haven't, why not check out their UK website where you'll actually find lots of videos, tutorials and all sorts of stuff. One of the things that Chauvin Arnoux pride themselves on is their customer service. They're regularly at trade shows, really easy to contact. So if you've got any questions around this sort of product, around this sort of gear, then why not head over to their website, contact them or contact them on their social medias. We will put the link to their website and their contact page in the show notes below. Now, back to the episode.
So let's lean back into why we first started talking on the telephone. And when we both decided we became, well, we're birds of a similar spirit of nerdism.
Nerdism,
right?
I like that.
Right. And I think actually I did that video just for CF Live.
You did.
And then you had a lot of questions about...
So, you put it out the night before CF Live.
That was it, yeah. That was maybe such strategic. So SPDs on a busbar fed SPD with... It's not an integral fuse, with an integral solder point.
Thermal disconnector, to use the technical...
To use the technical, which is 2 bits of solder and a bit of wire, right?
Bit of solder and, yeah.
Yeah, is it? Yeah. Like, it's to explain it to guys, it's if you take it apart, and it's the same from all of the brands that do this, right? It's exactly the same principle. It's essentially 2 bits of solder with a piece of wire, like from the old rewirable fuses, isn't it? That connects them.
It's part of the product standard, so it's there to disconnect the MOV in the event of it starting to overheat.
So an MOV is a varista, by the way. It looks like a blue bit of chewing gum, right? If I want a better term. So if you take apart most SPDs, you'll find a varista and a gas discharge tube, right? On a hybrid unit. Some will have 2 varistas, some will be different. And again, if you need any of that technical advice, you know to go to, right? Because there are loads of different types of SPDs. I think we need to touch on that as well before we finish. But for a standard Type 2 SPD in a domestic dwelling, you will either find a varista-based SPD or a varista and GDT-based SPD.
Yeah.
Now, we don't have to talk about the difference between 20 and 40 kA ratings and blah, blah, blah. But as a standard, that's what you're going to find. The ones that are busbar fed have a thermal, what was it?
Thermal disconnector. So it's not just the busbar fed ones. Every SPD that's designed to the standard of SPDs. Yeah. I'm not going to start quoting product standard numbers because although I am a nerd, I appreciate most people are not. But there is a product standard for SPDs. There's a whole series of them. And it states you must have a thermal disconnector inside. The reason is MOVs, or the metal oxide varistas we use, are rated at a certain point. And with SPDs, how they're designed to work is take that overvoltage, send it to earth and reset themselves.
Yeah.
So if you get something bigger than that MOV is rated to take, so say it takes a lightning strike and it's designed to take a surge, or you have something like a loss of neutral within an installation which causes a continual overvoltage rather than just a temporary one.
Yeah.
So the device can't reset itself.
And that's an important one as well, guys.
It is. If the device can't reset itself, it's going to be continually keeping that earth path open, which means the device is going to overheat. And when it overheats, you want to disconnect it from the supply.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have that thermal disconnector built in, what can happen is the device will go into short circuit. If it's got an MCB upstream, it will trip the upstream MCB, which will disconnect it from the supply.
Which is usually rated at what?
It depends on the manufacturer. We usually recommend a 32 amp.
As do we, funny enough.
Yeah. So we usually recommend a 32 amp. So that short circuit inside makes that trip.
Yeah.
If you don't have that MCB upstream, or you have a higher rated something, so one of the common things that we hear come back at the moment is, well, every installation has a 100 amp incomer, you know, your DNO fuse. Let's just get that very straight. The DNO fuse is not part of our fixed installation.
At all. And just to put an extra caveat on that, 90% of people don't even know what fuse is in that fuse carrier. The fuse carrier is rated at 100 amp.
Yep.
Most of the fuses as an average are 60 amp. We've had reports that some are 30 amp, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Some are 80, and newer builds might be 100.
Yeah.
but it's a DNO fuse that is absolutely got nothing to do with our side of the installation. DNO Dave has to come out and fix it. The DNO have to be notified to any change. You can't even access it. You can't even pull the fuse.
No.
It is nothing to do with our installation.
So it shouldn't be relied on as part of our installation.
How can it be?
Exactly. And there is also a line in the regs that states that the SPD failure should not lose continuity of supply for the installation. So again, if that SPD fails, and by whatever means eventually it trips that upstream MCB, who knows how hot that's going to be in the meantime. So whether that's in the board or it's in an enclosure next to it, we've got to the point we're going to start causing damage to our electrical installations, which is why SPD installations should always be protected against overcurrent.
Yep.
The regs does state it shall be done with an MCB or an internal fuse. There are no devices on the UK market that actually contain an internal fuse.
And let me pause you there. And I know that because we were trying to build one for like 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And the only way you can do it is in a 2-module enclosure, right? Which defeats the object entirely because they don't want to lose another way.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same essentially. And it's a cartridge fuse, similar to your 80 amp switch fuse or your 100 amp, sort of your KMF style fuses. And it sits within a second enclosure because you can't have it in a single mod enclosure because the heat running through it will blow the fuse.
Exactly.
Cool. So you can understand why we were aligned in our positioning on this situation.
Exactly.
So what is the main risk, in your opinion, of running an SPD, a Type 2 SPD, in a domestic board without an MCB?
You've got the risk of the device overheating and failing. I mean, if you go back, we were having this discussion before, surge protection, we've been around for 20 years. Surge protection has been the wiring reg since the 1980s. It's not new technology. It's not new devices. But you've got to think for the first time now we're seeing them directly put on buzz bars. That's never been done before.
Yeah.
If that was something we could have done, it would have been done. And it would be part of the product standard. It's not. The risk is we're going to get fires within electrical installations. We've got companies that are now selling surge protection that don't know anything about it. It's gone in the last 5 or 6 years from 3 main suppliers in the UK selling surge protection to, everybody has got a branded version.
Yeah.
Nobody.
And again, sorry to be a dick, but a lot of them come out of the same place.
Oh, they do. They will do. Exactly. Most of them, especially anybody you speak to, I mean, any of you guys that have been out on trade shows, you go up to any of your companies that are selling a surge protection device with their board or whatever, you were speaking to a sales guy, they know nothing about that surge device. They're selling you a box. And most of their technical lines, if you call them up asking them for questions, they will be selling you a box. They don't understand the devices. Yeah. So we've got this perfect storm of companies selling devices they know nothing about to an industry where everyone's still a little bit unsure about surge protection. And now you've got some marketers coming in saying, oh, this is a really good idea and it gives you a spare way. But it contradicts all the safety and wiring regulations that we've put in behind it. So anybody that understands surge protection, understands the technology behind it, would not be supportive of doing it this way. Because if we could have done it, we would have done it.
100% agree. And what's the risk to the electrician though then if they were to fit one and something goes wrong?
So it's a really grey area because you have 2 sides of it. So we have BS 7671 and if you install an SPD directly on a buzz bar, it contravenes BS 7671 because it directly states that SPD shall be protected against overcurrent and that it cannot lose continuity of supply in the event of failure. So straight away that outlaws our DNO fuse.
There's also regulations in about selectivity and all other sorts of stuff.
All sorts. So straight away we're contravening BS 7671. But there is always you must work with manufacturers' guidelines.
But that's only when they exceed the regulations.
That's the thing. And manufacturers' guidelines right now are not exceeding the regulations. One of the things I got asked, I will say repeatedly at CEF Live, and I am going to blame you for it, was, well, how can they get away with that? And trying to explain to people as manufacturers, me and you, if we take out our nerdy technical brains, we have to conform to product standards.
Yes, which are not the same as BS 7671.
No, we don't work to BS 7671.
BSEN numbers and IEC numbers.
That's it. We work to the product standards. Electricians work to installation standards. So as a company, you can design and sell something and market something really, really well that doesn't align with BS 7671. And until something goes wrong, and unfortunately it will go wrong with the rate these devices are going out on the market, when that thing happens, it's going to be somebody else that's in trouble for it. And going to make a massive hole in the industry, because it's not just with surge protection we see this happening. We see it in all other aspects of the electrical industry currently, where marketing is running out far ahead of standards, and unfortunately they're playing a very dangerous game.
So, not to put you on the spot, obviously that particular video, which I will be doing a follow-up to, is it got a lot of heat in the comments. One of which was brilliant. A great comment was saying, after we went back and forth of, well, with the more SPDs we fit on circuits, the risk of any issues is reduced anyway. Well, how do you position yourself on that?
I would say that's somebody admitting there's a risk there.
Which is why I didn't respond.
Point. That's it. There is a risk. And we all know, I mean, we're all installing these protective devices now. We know our electrical systems in the UK, especially compared to where we were saying before, you compared to going abroad, they are safe in electrical installations, but we design them to be as safe as we possibly can. When we're installing devices going on the buzz bar, that's not what their function ever was. And that's not how they should be installed. We're then going back on making our installations as safe as we possibly can. So at the same time, we're saying, oh, let's use AFDDs, let's RCBO every circuit, let's do all these type of things because it makes it more safe. Why are we going backwards on another aspect? Because somebody's marketing idea has sold to people that they desperately need this spare way.
So because obviously there's a comment, the catchphrase is 100 amp rated. The SPD is 100 amp rated. Do you want to explain what that actually means?
All that means is that the varistor inside is 100 amp rated.
Which pretty much all of them are, aren't they?
Pretty much everyone is. You do have ones that are high rated, but most minimum are 100 amp rated. That's a component rating, not the SPD rating itself. Because
a lot of these solder joints, and I'm going to keep calling them that, I love the fact you call it by its technical name, all right? But these solder points are rated at 140, 160 amp or whatever before they melt. Essentially, that's what happens. Okay, They melt, it disconnects the SPD, and therefore keeps it safe.
If they've been put in the right place, you would not believe the amount of devices. As an expert, we test.
I would,
and they do not.
So this is why I wanted you to come on from a technical aspect, from a not common sense, but like just a practical human being who doesn't do reading as well as you do, right? This is the issue I have with it, okay? And this is what I was trying to get across in that video, was the fact that you cannot test it. We talked about testers off camera.
We did.
You cannot test the SPD. You cannot test its short circuit rating of this little solder joint. You can't even guarantee it's been soldered in the right place, like you just said, right? It's got the right amount of solder or not enough of solder. Or just from a technical aspect, okay, that is not internal protection.
No.
That is a last resort. Please disconnect before I blow up. Right?
As you said, if they've put it in the right place, or if they've included it at all. Because as we know, you can print a product standard on anything, and who's there to test it?
Well, there's no police, as you mentioned.
There's no police.
Now, from another point, you've got, like I said, you've got an incomer that's 100 amp rated, okay, main incomer, which is not a protective device, it's an incomer, it's an isolator, okay? That will send your current down the buzz bar into the devices that can pull the load it needs based on the circuit requirement at the time. Basic, we know how a circuit protection consumer unit works, blah, blah. However, you have essentially, by omitting an MCB, relied on that DNO fuse, because it's the only thing, the incomer's not going to go, the only thing that's going to go in the event of a critical failure is that DNO fuse.
Yeah.
Which is, like I said before, at average rated at 60 amps. This thing only melts at 140, 160 according to certain claims, depending on, again, on which brand you listen to and blah, 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 blah. Why on earth would you cause yourself that much ag with the DNO, potential risk of a fire, and all this other jazz over the sake of an MCB?
Because unfortunately, we've got to the point that marketers are right in the electrical industry. That's what's happening right now. It's marketing and commercial, a commercial drive in the industry. It's the marketing and commercial drive in the industry is what is driving these product sales. It's people saying, oh, well, we can do it this way. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
You can steer a car with your feet. It's just not a good idea.
Exactly. And I just keep going back to, do you not think if this could have been done in a practical way, it would have been done by surge protection experts and people that have been doing this for a very, very long time?
What about on the continent? Do they fit MCBs on?
Nope.
Right.
No, they don't go on the buzz bar, sorry. They don't go on a buzz bar. Never, ever go on a buzz bar.
So on the continent, it's always an MCB feeding them. Which is hilarious because we copy and paste most of our standards from Europe.
Yeah. Because, again, as the standards say, there should be overcurrent protection. So actually, we do align with Europe in our standards. Where we're not aligning with Europe is the marketing that the companies in the UK are currently able to get away with.
Do you think it will change?
No.
Why?
There's no police, as we said.
So you think the marketing will continue to drive change in product rather than technology?
Unfortunately, that's where we are in the industry. As I said, we all know standards come out every, 3 years, our new standards. That's how long it takes us to prepare them. Okay, so we've got Amendment 4 coming out next year. There will already be work starting on the 19th edition.
Yeah.
Because standards are continually coming out of the IEC and they're continually coming out of the EU regs. We've constantly got new standards. You can't work any faster than that. Marketing department can come up with a new marketing ploy and come out.
You say that, right? Can't move any quicker than that. I've got a slight caveat to that. Okay. We had a corrigendum, and I still can't say that word properly. And then we had Amendment 3 shoved through in a 4-week peer review. So it can be happening if you got the right, how do I put this politically?
Budget.
Okay. I was going to say inspiration, but we'll go with budget. We'll go with budget. So my issue with this is they can. I firmly believe they can. Because that bidirectional nonsense was pushed through so quickly because of this massive potential risk and yada, yada, yada. Nothing to do with people losing market share or anything else like that.
No, nothing like that.
But absolute, because this was such a massive risk and everything else.
That had never been a safety issue previously.
Ever. And that's because, and again, I've done a video on this, that's because MCB has been bidirectional for 35 years or whatever it is, right? Previously, when we were doing PV systems, there were split load boards, the MCB didn't suffer. Now, all of a sudden, it was this big drive to bidirectional RCBOs, which I actually think have a risk in a different element anyway. We won't go into that today. Bidirectional RCBOs are the answer. And then when they actually launched Amendment 4 as a bidirectional device where required, because don't forget, on certain installations, if it's surface mounted or using armoured cable, you don't need RCD protection on it anyway, on a PV install, not on your general circuits, guys.
Yeah, PV install.
Yeah, it's only if you're burying the cable using twin and earth, you actually need an RCBO on anyway.
Realistically, you are causing yourself problems putting an RCBO on a PV circuit if you don't have to.
Well, of course you are.
So
and you've got selectivity issues there.
Exactly.
So there's... Anyway, we can go around it.
We're going to go around it.
My point is when there is the right level of enthusiasm towards changing a regulation or issuing a corrigendum or putting something out for best practice, it seems to be done. I've seen a recent one about heat pumps. I ain't going to get into that. And RCD, in particular, RCDs on heat pumps.
With JPEL, as I said, it's formed of a lot of different groups. You have people on it that are very much like me, very technical minded, very, very fantastic at what they do. They're driven in the right way. But you've also got groups on it that represent certain aspects of the electrical industry that are always going to be very loud voices in a room. And unfortunately, that's always going to have sway. Now, it can't have too much sway where it comes to most regulations, because I say we're so closely aligned with Europe. When they can, from a technical standpoint, prove that it potentially, whether we know how small that risk is or not, could potentially form a safety issue, that is when things can be pushed through. So that's when we see things like we did with the bidirectional, because although we know it's a very, very small risk, the documentation could be produced to say, actually, this could be a risk.
But then surely isn't that something that could be produced for this SPD issue with MCBs?
You have a very short time frame to bring out a corrigendum, which has passed. Right. So you can't produce a corrigendum after a certain point, after the regs have been released. Obviously, we already took the unprecedented step of releasing Amendment 3 in the way we did, which has meant we're having Amendment 4 for the first time.
Yeah.
Again, the deadline has now passed. Sometimes that may have been done
shittily or strategically?
A little bit of both. Strategically, missing the making sure certain marketing strategies may be produced after deadlines may occur. Again, unfortunately, there's very little we can do. JPEL are not police. What we're there to do is make sure the standards are applied to the UK correctly. We can't even tell you, how a standard should be applied. I can't tell you how to read the wiring regs. I can tell you what the standard says. But how everybody interprets that are always going to be different, and we have to allow that. because you have to allow engineering judgment.
So do you think there's a risk then with this potential situation with SPDs being fed straight off the buzz bar, with the heat risk you mentioned and things like that it could land in the installer's lap?
There's a potential it could. I mean, realistically, every job you do as an installer, you have to be ready to be able to stand up in front of a judge and explain why you did something, why you deviated from something, if it goes wrong. Because
the feedback I've had from a negative perspective on that video was, well, if a manufacturer is selling it that way, they know it's going to be installed within the realms of BS 7671, so therefore they wouldn't sell it if it doesn't comply.
Again, it goes back to manufacturers don't have to comply with BS 7671. Whether they know it'll be installed in that way or not, that's not something they actually have to comply with.
Because my understanding was it's down to the installer to design that circuit.
They did. They design their installation. Yeah. You sign it off as an installer. You don't sign it off as a manufacturer.
Yeah.
So if, and I will say when this starts to go wrong, because it will, unfortunately, we're going to see how quickly manufacturers change their mind on this.
Well, we're going to have another shareholders meeting after this because I'm going to dig my heels in, I think. Because, I'll be honest, like I said to you off camera, I'm under a lot of pressure internally and externally to bring out a matching solution.
Yep.
And it makes my skin crawl. But I'm going to make them watch this first.
It's so difficult, and I do understand that from a manufacturing point of view, because you've got your customers driving what they want you to do, and you're trying to align yourself with doing things from a technically correct way of doing things.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult when you've got large manufacturers that have got very, very big budgets, both for their R&D and for their marketing. They can get things out there, and everyone just assumes because they're doing it and they're so big, they must be right.
Yeah.
I do have the advantage of being, again, very niche, very specialist in my industry, to be able to say, actually, that's not right. That's not how you should be doing it. And actually, the domestic market is a very small part of what we do as a company.
Well, let's touch on that before we close off, because a lot of people in our industry think there's only two types of surge protection. Type 1, Type 2. That's pretty much it. And they don't really understand. And actually, guys, if you go on their website, Surge Protection Devices website, they will have, we've used them here, circulating for the staff, great charts on if it's this, do this way, and it leads you down a path of a part number that you need for a particular solution. So I'd recommend that for sure. Also, all the posts you put up, your marketing is 100% educational. Like, there's nothing.
Oh, I don't do sales, so I do all the social media, so right. I do all the marketing.
Yeah, it's literally
all technical.
It's literally that. It's all technical SPD stuff. So if you have any questions, either give them a call, but also check their website out and your socials. What's your handle on social?
Kirsty SPD Technical, I think. But if you just search Surge Devices, you'll see us come up.
So it's definitely on your LinkedIn as well. You're always putting stuff up on there as well, which is
that's it. And we run free CPD training every month, so anyone can sign up for it. I have people from very large brands in the industry sign up for it. I don't think they realise I see their email addresses. But obviously, I'm CPD accredited, so I send out CPD certificates afterwards to everybody that attends. And it's an hour session with me. We do it on Teams. I do it every month, completely free to attend. And it's the SPD masterclass. It talks you through all the way from the basics to selecting your devices through to installation requirements, why we do and don't do certain things in terms of testing and overcurrent protection devices and all these type of things. And you come out of it with a certificate, which generally makes people happy.
Guys, so please, I think it'd be worth for everyone, whether you're a wholesaler, a competitor. In fact, like you lot, you don't have to. But if you're going to be working with Surge or at all, get yourself one of those CPDs. I think you'll gain a lot from it. So just talk us over before I let you go, because you've got a long drive home. Before I let you go, surge protection. Again, like I said, we know it is Type 1, Type 2. How many different types of SPDs do you guys make?
So there are 3 types of SPDs, okay? So Type 1 is your protection against direct lightning. So we use them where we've got external lightning protection systems or overhead supplies. For most domestic installers, they'll only ever come across it if they have an overhead supply. Yeah. The rest of the time, it's Type 2. These are the ones you see pre-fitted into most boards. And then we have Type 3 devices, which is designed to protect specific equipment. That's where we get quite weird and wonderful. And that's just when we start talking about 230 volts. We start then talking about specialist equipment, different voltage systems. We might be going up to wind turbines. And then we've got our DC and we go to solar PV. We actually have about 3,000 products in our range.
3,000 different types of SPDs.
So I remember seeing marketing from one company that decided to launch some surge protection devices alongside the rest of their range. And they brought out 3 surge protection devices, a domestic, a double pole, a single pole domestic, a double pole commercial industrial single phase, and then a 3-phase device. And their tagline was the only 3 surge protection devices you'll ever need. And it gave me a good little chuckle. There are thousands of different variations on surge protection. Now, for most people, it will be a case if they use a couple because they tend to do the same jobs over and over.
Sure.
But then you have the larger part of the industry where you've got more specialist systems, we get more intricate and we have to protect specific equipment where it does need a bit more specialist assistance.
So what about fitting your SPDs inside of different companies like a Navitas board or whoever's consuming it? Where does it sit with that?
Yeah, so we had this regulation appear in the 18th edition, didn't we, about mixing manufacturers?
We did.
And that is what we call a UK-specific reg. So because it ends in, is it 202, I think, at the end, it means it only applies to the UK. It doesn't apply to any other country. So we know how it was written. So what that regulation refers to is anything that goes on the live buzz bar, because it refers back to the series of regulations for the product standards for consumer units.
Yeah.
Okay, so what it refers to is anything that goes on that buzz bar. Again, if we go back down, I feel this is another reason surge protection is being driven down the buzz bar route, because right now surge protection devices, and historically...
I hadn't even thought of that.
they clip on the DIN rail. They don't go on the buzz bar.
Because you do... So to not cut Kirsty short here, what... Fuck me. I didn't even think of that.
It's a very good commercial reason.
Put it this way, you can fit a Navitas Type 2 or a surge protection devices Type 2 SPD in any brand.
Because it doesn't go on the buzz bar.
Because it does not go on the buzz bar. But this new system would actually mean you would have to fit theirs.
Yeah.
I didn't even clock that.
Yeah. So it's a really good marketing strategy.
You wankers. That's so obvious.
But with surge protection devices, because they are passive in their nature, they only work when there's overvoltage on the system.
When they need
and they
to.
work with it. Exactly. Yeah. It's like 25 nanoseconds. So it's about 1,000 times faster than an RCD is going to trip. It's extremely quick. Gets rid of your excess voltage, sends it to earth, resets, ready to go again. The rest of the time, it's completely passive. There is no heat generated. There's nothing like that. So you take a cable from an MCB to your surge protection device, it's essentially inert. It's unreactive. It sits there very quietly on the DIN rail doing its job. You could say the same with a timer, a transformer, all these type of systems that don't go on a buzz bar.
Well, it's even like we've launched a 63 amp triple rotary isolator that fits on a DIN rail for a lot of solar, so they can isolate the entire AC side of the board in a board. Which they, again, some Burke sent me a picture. I've used your isolator in a different brand's board. I'm not going to put that on social media, am I?
No.
But but it was they're using that because they can put it in anyone's conductor fed, anyone's enclosure. I hadn't, honestly, Kirsty, I completely missed that as an absolute. What a gimmick!
Yep, that's all it is. It's marketing strategy, and unfortunately, right now.
But you're
the
right, because once that SPD now goes on a buzz bar, you can't, like, even if they're both buzz bar fed, you've got brand A, brand B, you would have to go with whatever brand the board is.
That's it, and that's why that manufacturing reg was come out. That's why it came out, is we don't mix manufacturers because buzz bars might be at different heights. You know,
they are different pitches, different heights. Terminals work differently.
We had historically,
ratings, type testings, loads of stuff.
Yeah, we had electricians that might carry a certain brand on their van. If they turned up to another job, they'd put them in and just make it work.
Yeah.
It creates hotspots. We create all these issues within the board, nuisance tripping, all these type of things. So we don't want that happening.
Create gaps in terminals for arcs and stuff. Yeah.
So from a safety point of view, mixing manufacturers where it's anything that goes on the buzz bar should not occur. It shouldn't happen. Yeah. And it was a error that it wasn't already in the standards that shouldn't happen. Unfortunately, what's happened is a regulation that is technically correct has been used again in a very good marketing strategy. That
is absolutely blowing my mind. I can't get over that. Sorry, because we did not talk about that off camera, and that is an absolute mind bomb. They have manipulated the regs so that they can put their SPD on the fucking buzz bar.
But they haven't changed the regs. The regulations still say the SPD should have overcurrent. So they're playing a very dangerous game right now, nuts. Unless the intention is they feel they will be able to get the wording changed of them regulations.
But it doesn't eliminate the risk.
Which is why the regulations will not change.
Guys, I have no better way of ending that podcast. That is an incredible bombshell. Guys, can I humbly request that you do some of your own homework, not on ChatGPT. Give Kirsty a call if you've got any questions. Your phone might get busy now. Email into us if you want to. Read up on the regs. And yeah, wow. What an absolute bombshell. Kirsty, thank you ever so much. Is there anything you want to put out to the world before I let you go?
Not really. Everybody knows where to find me. You know, we're the luminous yellow devices that everybody sees around. Everyone always comments on the colour, but you know what? You open a board and you see one of our devices, you know it's something different.
Straight away, yeah.
Yeah, anything anyone needs, I'm always happy, even if it is just to talk through regulations or technical conversations. I'm always
And you
happy.
at the next Elec show?
I'm always at the Elec
There you
shows,
go.
yeah. I will be doing my usual seminar
September
slot.
11th is the next one, isn't it?
Yeah, we're down in Coventry. Across in Coventry from
Well,
here.
it's down for you, it's up for me.
Yeah, that's it.
So yeah, we'll be there as well. Well, if I don't see you before, I look forward to seeing you at Coventry. And Kirsty, thank you ever so much, guys. Please remember to like, subscribe, give their channel a follow, and their Instagram a follow as well. And until next time, the joy is in the journey, and take care.
Thank you.